Thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Poulami, Manish, Sanghamitra. I think I should just make a disclosure. Sanghamitra and I are married to each other. So any questions that you read bias into will be completely intentional. It's a true tribute to Kolkata, I think, that we are gathered here this afternoon to talk about the lives of two people who've been captured in three books. Manish has written these, and you must buy all three, by the way. Manish has written these two, The Last Courtesan and Notch Boy, which are about him, but more importantly about his mother, Rekhabai, who was a courtesan who spent much of her working life in Kolkata, and Soumitra Chatterjee, whom you might assume would not have met Rekhabai, the subject of Manish's books, and yet here we are. Before we start, and does everybody here understand a bit of Bangla? Good. I want to read to you a very short fragment from a poem by Shankho Ghosh. সব আমার তো পাত্রমিত্র এই বিলাপে খুশি শুঁড়িখানাই কেবল সত্য আর তো সবই ভূষি ছিছি হায় বেচারা ছিছি হায় বেচারা শুনুন যারা মস্ত পরিত্রাতা এ কলকাতার মধ্যে আছে আরেকটা কলকাতা হেঁটে দেখতে শিখুন ঝরছে কি খুন দিনের রাতের That was Shankho Ghosh talking about এই কলকাতার মধ্যেই আছে আরেকটা কলকাতা. There's another Calcutta right within this one. And these are the Calcuttas that we are hoping to throw some light on today through conversations with two biographers and with Poulami, who's Soumitra Chatterjee's daughter. She has a huge identity of her own, but for this afternoon, we'll just borrow you as the great man's daughter. Thank you. Let me start by asking all three of you, Sanghamitra, Manish, Poulami, all of you are concerned with people who were not Calcuttans to begin with. They came to Kolkata and they happened to live large parts of their lives there. And in the process of writing books about them in different ways, your research was conducted in different ways. How do you think your subjects saw Kolkata? And what about Kolkata do you think they were most interested in, excited by, and so on? Maybe Sanghamitra, you first, about Soumitra.
Soumitra Chatterjee, am I audible? Soumitra Chatterjee was born and brought up in Krishnanagar, which was a satellite town of Kolkata, and had a very rich sort of cultural and theatrical tradition. But he kept coming to Kolkata because his mama bari was in Kolkata, his uncle's house was in Kolkata, and there were several relatives who lived here. He finally moved to Kolkata in 1951 to enter college. That is when he actually, and that was a very exciting time in Kolkata, because India had just become independent, and whether it was literature, culture, theater, art, all of this which sort of gripped him in, a very, very profound way, was thriving in this city. And when he came in, he also saw Kolkata as the city of which was actually the crucible of the independence movement. He greatly admired the revolutionaries, and it is fitting that we are sitting here in this venue, Binoy Badul, Dinesh, Chittaranjan, to Subhash Chandra Bose, and all the other Bengali leaders who he admired greatly. And I think Poulami will also tell us that the family had connections. He was actually a grandnephew of Bagha Jotindranath Mukhopadhyay. So when he first came to Calcutta, he was in awe completely, because it was still the city of palaces. And he does say in one of his prose writings, his essays, that he felt very much like an Opu who had come from Nishchindipur to Kolkata. But this was after many years. He said that we were all Opus of our time.
No, you can't just stop there, but we'll come back to you. Manish? And please don't be brief.
So my mother was born in Pune, and she doesn't remember where she was born and which year or what time. But she was a child bride who was taken to Agra. And from there, her mother-in-law brought her to Sonagachi to sell her in the Kothas of Sonagachi. And she must have been roughly about 12 or 13, I think, at that time. And at the time, they said in Sonagachi that this girl is a child bride, so she's no longer a virgin, so you won't get a good price for her. So then they decided to sell her in a kotha where there was a naika who would teach her song and dance, the mujra, to perform as a tawayaf. So for her, that displacement from Pune to Calcutta wasn't about finding her place in the world, finding a home in the world. It was just being removed from her family and not understanding where she was. And after a couple of years, when I was born, we went and lived in Kamatipura in Bombay, in Opera House. And she also worked as a junior artist in Hindi films at the time. So, and then it got a little, I would say, too filmy for her to stay there and little bit troublesome dealing with the goons over there. So then she returned. There was a situation where she had to decide if she wants to stay in Bombay or come back to Calcutta. And so she chose to come back here, and that's when she made a home in the Kothas in Bau Bazaar, and she remained there for the rest of her lives. And I think she preferred Calcutta over Bombay, and that was home to her.
All right, but can you help us see Calcutta through her eyes? Tell us about some of the things she told you, places she took you to, whatever's in the book or maybe not in the book.
So the thing is, I think for most of the Tawaiffs, the center of the world is the Kotha. They don't really step out. And I think most of her excursions were either going to the cinema hall to watch a film in Regal or Metro or somewhere over there. Or actually they would be going to different places like Muzaffarpur or somewhere in Gujarat to perform in tents, the mujras over there. So she didn't really stay in Calcutta to explore the city. It was just a place where she worked to survive. So she didn't have that flavor of Calcutta that I went to this place and I had puchka, or, I went to that place and had a good time on the in a park or something like that. Nothing like that. It was a world contained inside the Kotha, and that's what made her comfortable, and that's all she knew about Calcutta, actually.
And the particular kotha that she was in, where was it located?
This is a lane called Banduk Gully in Bau Bazaar, which is just next to Bau Barracks.
Metcalf Street, I think.
No. This is Bau Bazaar.
Bau Bazaar, yeah.
This is where I think also Gohar Jan used to live in Bau Bazaar and perform there much earlier.
And all right, we'll come back to you. Yes. Poulami, help us see Kolkata the way your father showed it to you.
Oh, yes. Hello? Yes. There's a beautiful line of poetry. এই শহর দেখেছে আমার প্রথম সব কিছু. So for my father, Kolkata, when he came to Kolkata, I'll just carry on from where Sanghamitra left off, is he felt that he had come home. The cultural ethos, the political atmosphere in the city greatly influenced him, and the intellectual sustenance that he got from Kolkata really shaped him to be the person that he ultimately became. And for that reason, he just never wanted to leave Kolkata. He would give one excuse after the other when he was being offered films from Bombay, but he would just not leave Kolkata. I remember when we were young, when we were very small, and he wasn't that big a star. In the early winter mornings, he would just bundle me and my brother up, with warm sweaters and those the quintessential Bengali monkey caps. He'd bundle us up, and he would take us for the first tram ride from Tollygunge to Esplanade and then back. And he would keep telling us, just see what a beautiful, we were just too small to understand what he was saying. I was 2, Dada was 4, Dada was 6. Maybe Dada understood, but he would say, what a beautiful city. Look at the mist. Look at the kuasha. He would romanticize Kolkata like anything. And, when we were growing up, he would take us to College Street, and we would walk down there. He would just let us be. We would sit in coffee house, he would sit in his coffee house, and he would tell us, go explore College Street, come back after some time. Don't disturb me now, I'm going to edit Ekon. So because Nirmallo Kaku would come and they would sit there. So we would just roam around College Street and discover places. And he had a tremendous love for the city. I think his love for the city, he never stopped us. He never protected us. He would just let us be. And I had a cycle, and I would cycle all around. And he'd come ask me, that's okay, so where did you go today? What did you do? Did you find that tele bhaja shop? Did you find that book shop tucked into that little goli? So he knew all that. He knew Calcutta like the back of his hands. And he encouraged in us and all the people around him to love Calcutta the way he did. Because he always said that he draws his sustenance from Calcutta. Calcutta is the oxygen he breathes. And there is a very nice portion in Sanghamithra's book. If you allow me, I'd like to read it out.
Of course.
India's colonial capital until 1911, Calcutta was as rich as it was complex. Discovering the unknown facets of the city with his friends was fascinating for Soumitra. He felt in his pulse a kind of idealism and romanticism that only Calcutta could inspire. Speaking about his generation, he later told Satyajit Ray's biographer, Andrew Robinson, so the 50s were the time when things began to change. We were all like that. Many of us came from outside Calcutta. The city enthralled us. At the same time, we had our nostalgias. And then our attitude towards love, towards women, was so typical of us. We were, to a great extent, opus of our time.
Yes, thank you. So Soumitra comes to Kolkata. He comes for an education. And how does he get deeper and deeper into Kolkata at that time?
So I think it was College Street mainly. He lived not far from College Street. He mentions that it was the distance, I mean, where...
Yeah, Mirzapur Street, right next to College Street.
Right,
Yeah.
it was the distance of a, cigarette from his house to his college or coffee house. And coffee house, as we know, was the nerve center of all intellectual activities at the time. So, and this triangular area between City College, College Street, and Kolkata University, that area was where he was, he and his friends, and I call them the cultural kingpins. They were kind of dapiye beraten. So I had to say this in Bangla. And he discovered books, he discovered ideas, he met lots of artists and young writers and political minds. So his college also had someone who turned out to be his mentor. So he was being shaped slowly. I mean, the Soumitra we know and love emerged as a result of that experience. It is very, very clear, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, those were the early influences. And then he started, his friends, they would go to Rangmohol. There's a scene that I could literally visualize. There was a Alauddin Khan concert, which they couldn't get into. Outside Rangmohol, they spent the night listening to the music. So he discovered the Bengal school, which was thriving then. And of course, he was shaped by, I mean, this was also a time when India had become independent, but there was a great deal of, let's say, it was a very, very tense time for all, because literally thousands of people, migrants from East Bengal, waves of them started coming into Kolkata, and Shelda station was flooded by refugees. And there was also this hope that after independence, we will get it all. But that was not to be, obviously. It was not only a bloody partition, but there was a housing crisis because of this whole migration problem. And there were fewer jobs. The same pie was being chased by so many people. So there was a lot of disappointment, disillusionment, and also anger on the streets. So we see Soumitra trying to find answers to some of these problems. And this was also the time that he was reading Marx. So at that time, if you were a young person who was sensitive and who was asking some critical questions, it was impossible not to be, sort of shaped by Marxian thought and philosophy. So we see him being completely drawn in by some of the things that were going on. One was a teacher's strike. The ABTA had called a strike. They were sitting in not far away from here at the Governor House, and there were 5 people who were killed in the clash between the teachers and the policemen. And Soumitra writes in his essays that the news of that reaches College Street, and everybody, all of them were, it's very much like, young students all over the world being profoundly sort of shaped by what is going on in Gaza and Palestine or other parts of the world where there are atrocities. There was another one which was called the Du Paishar Lorai, which was, there was a 2 paise raise in the tram tickets. And this brought out people. And this was the time when Kolkata was gaining this reputation of being the city of protests and the city of thinking people and cultured people. So, sorry, what was your question again?
Fine, just go on.
Yeah. So, Soumitra Chatterjee was actually, before he became an actor, and I believe, as I looked into the story, his life story, I feel these were filters that he used greatly in his thinking, in his writings, in his acting career as a playwright, and eventually as the editor of Icon magazine, and of course as an artist.
And as a poet.
As a poet, yes.
It reflected very strongly in his poetry, Kolkata. In his poetry, Kolkata came in various forms, in various shapes, in various influences. His poetry was very influenced by Kolkata. And I'm sorry, I'm just butting in.
No, absolutely.
So the thing is, like Sanghamitra was saying, this culture that Kolkata protests against every injustice anywhere around the world, was something that my father was very, very proud of. It was almost like, at least Kolkata has a conscience. Kolkata will stand up. I remember when
he joined in.
He always joined in. There was this, after Gauri Lankesh was gunned down, he and some other intellectuals, they wrote a very strong letter and they forwarded it to the Union Ministry. There were many other incidents. He was on the streets out during the Indo-China war. I still have a photograph somewhere. He was collecting funds, he was collecting clothes for any kind of flood relief. All these things shaped him. All these things actually reflected in the work that he did. And I believe as an actor myself, I can see these kind of influences when he's acting also. Because you can't just be an actor and not be influenced or not be impacted by events that is happening around you. You can't. Everything comes together, everything is put together that makes you the person you are, that makes you the artist you are, or that makes you the practitioner that you are. So Kolkata actually had a huge influence on his art, his form of expressions. And he had many, painting, poetry, theatre, he had many. But Kolkata had a very long-lasting impression on him.
And
Yes,
can
yeah.
I just
No,
quickly
do.
butt in here? I think he had been warned several times by his friend Uttam Kumar, who was the megastar of the era, to not make himself so visible in the city. But I have a feeling, and correct me if, the sense I got was that he loved the city so much that he liked to wander around in the city and its spaces.
Oh yes, always. Even, there's a very funny story. My mother sent him to the corner store, our grocery store right at the corner. In what we Bengalis call the Mudid Dokan. So my mother was cooking something, and she sent my father to get some ingredient because she didn't have it at home. My father went there, and being the quintessential Bengali that he was, he started an adda over there. There was a chai dokan right next to the mudid dokan. So he started sitting there and chatting there. And he started reading the newspaper over there. And after half an hour, 45 minutes, he came back home. He had completely forgotten what my mother had sent him to get. And my mother told him, I shouldn't. And that time, my mother was 75. My father was almost 80, nearing 80. Then my mother said, I shouldn't have married you. I should have known you would do this later on. So it was, but that's what he was. He would just go around in spite of his, so-called stardom. He didn't believe in the word stardom, but, for the want of a better word, his so-called stardom, he would go and sit in the mudid dokan and chat. He just didn't have any compunctions about it. They used to go for the morning walks, and they'd form a morning walkers club. The club was mainly to have chai together after the morning walk was over. But that was his Kolkata. That is the place where he wanted to live always.
Yes, thank you. Manish, Rekhabai was an artist. She was a singer, a dancer. I don't suppose Kolkata would have shaped her quite the same way that Soumitra was shaped. What can you tell us about?
Not at all.
What can you tell us there? And perhaps it won't be as wonderful a story.
So I think singing and dancing was something that she used as a form of survival in the Kotha, and she understood that that is going to be the ends to provide for herself, for her family. She had a large family in Pune. There were 9 girls who were born so that they could get one boy in the end. They had 10 children, the grandmother, grandfather. So she had to raise that family back in Pune to make sure that none of them would end up in the Kothas. So it was it wasn't a life that was colored by what is outside the Kotha. It was the interior, it was the sisterhood of all the other wives who were living there. And they were, the topic of this discussion is Feluda to the Kothas. And while y'all were wonderfully shaping the world of Feluda outside, we were only getting Faluda. So our world was a Faluda. It was a small knit community of women running the Kotha, and mostly they were trying to educate themselves by learning Urdu or trying to write shairi, and all the time was actually in the morning. They spent all the time doing the riyaz. So these were not classically trained artists. They were self-made artists. trying very hard not to step into the other profession, which is sex work in Sonagachi. And this was at the time in the 80s when slowly the Kotha culture, the Mujras, everything was on its end because the discos had sprung up everywhere, Topaz in Bombay, for example, and all the girls were either moving to the discos, dance bars, and the last remaining Tawaiafs had the choice to either just stay in the Kotha and try and sing a thumri for that one patron who would come in and say, "Give me Ramba Ho." I don't want your thumri, I want Ramba Ho. So that was the choice that the remaining ones had to make, and I think she was one of the last people in Calcutta to do that.
There's a very nice story you have about when she went to watch Miss Shefali.
Yes.
Do you
yes.
want to tell us that story?
Okay, I don't remember much with Al. I think she went to watch her at the Oberoi, and they had a conversation
They
about.
had a conversation where they met,
They
and
met.
then she said that I am a dancer as well. And Miss Shefali said, and is that different from us? And she said, yes, it is. And someone wanted her to Rekabai to dance. And she said, no, no, this is not the time or place for me to dance. And then Shefali came and hugged her. And there was a moment between them where they understood each other, she says.
Thank you so much, Arunava, because I was trying to make sure that everybody buys the book to find out what it was about.
Oh, hi, Kushal. Yeah, no, but there are plenty, there are 20 reasons on every page to buy both of these books.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But what did she tell you about Calcutta?
Really nothing,
Nothing.
actually, because when I was about...
She sent you away.
Yeah, when I was about 5, she sent me to a boarding school in Kurseong, and then I went to Darjeeling. So I only came here in the winters for about 3 months, and the only thing I saw was the Kotha, or we went to the cinema. That's it. We didn't go around for an adventure in the city. I think the thing about the wives is that वो एक नज़र की हया शर्म है जिस वजह से they don't get out. We didn't have Bengali TawaiFs in the Kotha. We only spoke Hindustani, and it was a very, very small, close-knit world that operated across Baobazar Kothas, and the women rarely went out on their own or took their children out. I think it's just about the haya in their eyes, about stepping out into a world that they didn't understand and they didn't feel comfortable. And so we didn't really go anywhere. I mean, it's a sad story, but she did take me to a lot of temples and dargahs all across India, because that was her way of, I think, detoxing when I came back in the winters, and we did that thing.
But the city came to her in the form of the men who visited.
Yes, 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 that is true.
And you were witness to many of these
Yes,
encounters.
yes.
Do you want to talk to us?
We
about
had
some?
one. I remember a Bengali Babu Moshai who came in his dhoti. So that's typical of what they saw, what they show in cinema. That was there. But otherwise, we didn't have an interaction. The kids were in the evening sort of barricaded in a room or taken away to play somewhere so that they wouldn't interact with the patrons, and that's not a healthy thing to do for children also. So I think most of the wives made sure that the children were away, because that was one way of making sure that they are not affected by what is going on here, and getting a good education so that they can make a life away from all of this. None of them wanted their children to be part of the profession. If it was a girl, then it was probably a boon, but if it was a boy, it was difficult to raise a boy in a Kotha, and especially if a boy is a feminine boy who's thinking this is perfect and this is what I want to do when I grow up, because that's what I probably thought I'll do. I'll grow up to be a courtesan, but life had other plans.
So, Manish, may I ask a personal question?
Yes.
You do write about some meetings with some of the men.
For example.
Okay, no, this then you really have to buy the book and read in that case.
I mean, are you talking about the Notch Boy or the Last Courtesan?
I'm talking about Notch Boy.
Okay, I mean,
the book starts with an extraordinary scene. Do you want to tell us that scene at the railway station?
Oh, you're talking about my father. Oh, okay. Sorry. So when I was born, my father tried to kidnap me and take me away from my mother. She was going, this is a very dramatic scene, of course. She goes to the Harwa station because she's leaving the city. She wants to go to Bombay because he's troubling her in the Kotha. So he comes there and he snatches me from her, an infant, from the moving train, and he says, "Ye mera bachcha hai, and I won't give you the child." And she calls his bluff. She says, "Take it. I can have him another one." And that was the kind of woman that she was. She wasn't really scared of anybody, and that's kind of how our journey started, where one of his friends says to him that, what are you trying to do with taking her child away? What will you do with the child? Will you throw it on the tracks? Will you give it to an orphanage? You can't raise one because you already have a family. So then he runs back and he gives her the baby, and then we start a journey in Bombay.
Yes. Well, there's a great deal more to talk about, and we do have to talk about the fact that this is about Feluda and the Kothas. And as far as I remember, the only exposure that Feluda had to what went on in the Kothas was listening to classical music on records and All India Radio. It even plays, an Akhtari Ghazal even plays a key part in one of the, in Joy Baba Phelunath. So, but I can't imagine that Feluda actually, like many others, he was also in his own world mostly. He seemed to venture out only to solve cases.
Mr. Ray never really came to the Kotha. I think he brought Begum Akhtar to Jalsagar to sing a Thumri.
Yes.
But I don't think he ever explored that side of the city.
Right.
He should have.
Yeah. So it's a good time to ask both of you to give us some short readings from your books. Manish, you first, and then Poulami, will you read from?
You know, may I please request Poulami to please read a passage, because it will sound more urgent in her voice. She has a beautiful voice. And that will probably convince some of you to buy the book. Thank you.
You really need to buy this book. You won't read anything, both the books. You really won't read anything like these.
I'm reading out from Manish's book, The Last Courtesan. One morning I stepped out, went down the building and was looking for a rickshaw when Pushpa understood I was going to the Howrah railway station. She came down and dragged me back inside, saying I could not leave. "Why will you not even let me leave?" I shouted. "Where will you go? What will you do?" she said. "You will be torn to pieces by this world in seconds. Do you know who you are?" I was aware of my reputation. I had earned it. I was a Baiji. "Khangi ho, Randi ho," she shouted. "Randi," she screamed and hurled abuses at me. A crowd gathered, attracted by the booming, harsh and loud sound of that one word. I knew what it meant. But in her screaming voice, it came out like a radio announcement. "Randi!" It sounded horrible. I knew it had the power to stop any man in his tracks and make him stare. It also made everyone stare accusingly at the person who was being shouted at. I was being called a Randi. I was being disgraced. I was being humiliated in broad daylight in front of a crowd. She pulled at my sari. I felt naked, being harassed in public. The word was shrill and loud and deafening, Randi. That is how people saw us. I was not a prostitute, but how does any man know better than to judge us as one when one of our own is calling us a whore, a Randi? That was the first time someone had called me a name that I was not. In a public place, in an open street, where strangers were walking by, most of whom stopped to stare at me. Their eyes burnt into me, my skin crawled. The light in the sky was too bright, too harsh. Being dragged back from under the clear blue sky was like being pulled into a pool of darkness, into a pitch dark cave where I belonged, where women like me belonged.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you. Arekta Kolkata, Saheb, Arekta Kolkata. Now, can I before I pop my last question, can I ask for a reading from Sanghamitra biography of Sanghamitra
Yes,
Chatterjee.
I have. This is also, I'm reading out a portion which Sanghamitra has written so beautifully, is about the Adda. Sanghamitra, I just lost the page. Can you just, Sanghamitra, please find it for me, the Adda. It's a very Bengali thing to do, a very Kolkata thing to do, the Adda, which we so far haven't touched upon. But Adda was something where, which Kolkata thrives on. The spirit of Adda, an important aspect of Bangaliana and the intellectual life of Kolkata, intricately woven with its rich cultural traditions, is its Adda. The word Adda in Hindi or Urdu indicates a location or address. In Bengali, the early connotations of Adda were not entirely positive. Opium Adda, gambling Adda, criminal Adda, for example. However, Bengalis made the art of debates, discussions, and chattering their own and chose to call it Adda. These were usually long, informal discourses, often bordering on gossip, and were commonly held in the rocks of the city's neighborhoods, corrupted in Bengali as Para Rock. The chattering classes gathered on these rocks, extensions of the raised plinths on which houses were built. There were cultural clubs and tea shops in the city too, where Adda cemented friendships and fueled the argumentative Bengali spirit. Even though Ray's reserve was legendary, he was a fine exponent of the Bengali art of the Adda. And Soumitra, much more sociable and chatty, was also the life of many Addas with his friends from the days of his youth. He and his college friends had all-night sessions at a section of the Muktagacha Zamindar house in their youth. Then, of course, there was Coffee House, which he continued frequenting until the mid-60s, when he was already a big star.
Thank you. Thank you. So, the more I hear about Soumitra Chatterjee since his passing, the more he grows in my esteem. The more I realize that he was so much more, when he was alive and acting, he was a film star. He was Feluda. He was many other characters. But since he's been gone, he's become so much more of what Kolkata was. And really, this I mean, it's a plug, of course. But you really have to read this book.
Yes, absolutely. I must vouch for this book because this is one of the few books on my father that does not hero worship him, that this book explores him for the person that he was. This book, I've read it cover to cover so many, I think 3 to 4 times already by now. And the research that has gone into this book, the dedication that Sanghamitra has displayed, it is absolutely apparent. If anybody wants to know about Soumitra Chatterjee, his life, where he comes from, what shaped him, the man that he was, I think, this book is a must, Soumitra Chatterjee and his world. It is a must.
Thank you.
No, not at all, not at all.
So if to many of us, Feluda is represented by Soumitra Chatterjee, I want you to conduct a thought experiment. Imagine Soumitra Chatterjee and Rekhabai meet. What are they going to say to each other? What are they going to talk about? Yes.
I think Soumitra Babu was an artist, and he was interested, as an artist, he was interested in people. And he valued art and artistry, and he studied anyone who was an artist, who had a life that he could peel off in layers. So I think he would have, just as Poulami has said, that he could start an Adda anywhere, I think he would start an Adda with her, with Rekha Bai. And also, I think later he would either sketch her or or maybe write something, yeah, write a poetry on Rekhabai.
Yeah, can I add to that? My father was he was a huge connoisseur of good music and dance. In fact, he was the first one to bring Yamini Krishnamurti to Kolkata. He was the president of the Calcutta Kathakali Club, so he was a great fan of classical music and semi-classical music like tungris, ghazals. He would love all that. So I think if he had met Rekhabai, he would have requested her to sing for him. And then maybe I think he would have, like Sanghamitra said, he would have written a poem about her, written poetry about her, because my father was very appreciative of women who were, who pursued the arts. And he was a thorough gentleman, and he also had that quality in him, he could strike up a conversation with anyone. So I think it would have been a very interesting, encounter.
Manish?
Personally, I've never seen him dance. I've seen very little of his work. I'm so sorry. I've seen the Ray films, a couple of them. Yeah. But I think she could probably teach him the mujra and they could do a duet.
That would have been worth watching. Maybe we can take one or two quick questions. Do you want to locate it and read it quickly? Yeah. Meanwhile, is there any other question? We have a few minutes. Okay, we'll just wait for the reading. Manish, is there something you'd like to tell us meanwhile? Something that we haven't asked you about, something that you're dying to share with us? About yourself, your relationship with your mother, and whether you like, oh, by the way, do you like Calcutta? Do you like living in Calcutta?
These 3 months. I had as great a relationship with my mother as you have probably had with your father. So I don't know what to say.
Well, you've said quite a lot in your 2 books.
Which is why we're here to tell them to do the same.
Yeah, well, Manish simply won't let go. Maybe we can spot the pages afterwards and, sir, you should buy the book. Oh, excellent.
You have it. There was a session at the other literary meet last year.
Right.
Last year at horticulture. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, no, we are.
No, we are actually.
We have to finish at 4. It is 4. Any luck? Is there a story you want to tell us in the meantime about, or have you found it? Oh, excellent.
Love and poetry. This is what the section is called. All along, he had been in touch with Deepa, his phone friend from Howrah. They had seen each other from a distance at first. When Deepa would arrive in front of her friend Anuradha's house on her school bus, she would notice a slim boy lurking on the balcony. Saumitra was in class 10 then, and Deepa was in class 7. This handsome young man made her curious. He had noticed her as well, but they had never spoken. When Deepa called at first, Saumitra would answer, speak for a while, and then hand over the phone to his sister. Until there came a time when he dropped the charade and they spoke uninhibited. They spoke on sleepy afternoons when the house was still. Deepa did not seem to mind at all. She was a shy girl. For every 5 sentences Saumitra spoke, she would respond with one. Later she wrote, I felt the jingling of bells in my heart when the time came for our afternoon calls. I found Saumitra's conversations riveting. He was so gentle and romantic, it felt like a warm blanket of love. Then one day, suddenly, he confessed to me that he loved me. Just like that, on the phone. During this time, Deepa had moved to faraway Barakpur with her family when her father joined a jute mill as an administrator. Saumitra started calling her on their new number. She recalls it was Barakpur 164. and it soon became a daily feature of their day. Quite soon they were tormented by terrible pangs, and a meeting was now inevitable. They planned a secret rendezvous at Barakpur's Dhobi Ghat. Deepa, bundled up in a sari, told her mother that she was going to see the high tide on the river. Her mother, hearing this improbable explanation, promptly set Deepa's sister Shipra on her, followed by the gateman Gangadhar, who turned up dutifully at Dhobi Ghat. Fortunately, the intruders arrived only after the couple had spent some time in seclusion. Gangadhar promptly returned to report to Deepa's mother that the river was not at high tide. Meanwhile, Shipra asked Deepa about the young man she found her talking to. Oh, him? No one really. He was just talking to me in passing, Deepa replied abruptly and moved away. Though she was utterly nervous and tripping on her sari, Deepa's memories of the handsome Soumitra that day were vivid. I first saw him by the Ganga in the gentle glow of the setting sun, she wrote. Soumitra remained as poised and sharp as he had been during their calls, while Deepa recalls, fumbling anxiously, butterflies in her stomach.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a wonderful note to end on. Barakpur ki Kolkata Rangsho. Bhakte hobe. Thank you. Thank you very much, Poulami, Manish, Sanghamitra, and thank you, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause for our speakers. Thank you. On that note, let us thank the partners of the festival. Festival partner, Goethe Institute, Institute Francis, Elias Vasaju Bengal, Antonym Collections, Glenburn Penthouse, Sunrise Pure. Refreshment partner, Cha Bar and Cafe Kotum. Hospitality partner, Kenilworth Hotel, The Park, Kolkata. Gifting partner, Fluris. Radio partner, 91.9 Friends FM. Institutional partner, Teachers Center and the Heritage College. Outdoor media partner, Balaji Ads. And event partner, Navpreet Events and Levin. Thank you.